every painting, every painting I've ever done, everyone I've ever done, it's been perfect. It's been absolutely perfect in terms of color, composition, technique. It's been absolutely perfect. It's been a home run in my head before I even start.
Welcome to the Conscious Rebel Podcast with your host, Lucy Morningstar.
If you're an artist, a creative, or someone who is looking for your life's purpose, or you know what you want, but you're just waiting for a sign or the guidance to finally pursue your heart's desires, then you definitely want to tune in to this interview with Andrew Tishler. Andrew is a masterful artist, amazing, incredible art teacher, and just a downright incredible man. In this interview, we talk about how to let your purpose and meaning find you instead of chasing it, how to approach the feeling of not good enough, something that even Andrew at his level experiences. We talk about the importance of focusing on what is really important in life, especially when you are dealing with paradigm shifts or feeling fear and overwhelm. We also take you into his Patreon community, and you get to pick his brains on how to critique artworks, both his own and his students. If you are watching the video version of this podcast, which you can find on YouTube or Rumble, I will also put up his incredible paintings on the screen, which you can see. So let's dive right into it. Like when you have those sell-out shows, and you often experience a low after that. Like, can you tell me a bit more about like what it was like you have a sell out show and you're feeling supposed to feel wow, cool, great, but what happened? Why will you have a low after that?
I think there are several reasons for it. There's some emotional reasons, some physical reasons, but also I might even be able to add to that some spiritual reasons. But I'll start off with the obvious one, the physical reasons. When you think about the outlay of energy that you go through to just put together a body of work, it takes a lot. And I don't think people that don't paint realize what an undertaking that is to put together a body of work of, say, anywhere between a dozen to 24 paintings for a show. And I was often involved in group shows. So there were about 3 or 4 artists. So that did take the pressure off me, but it's still a period of months to weeks to prepare this stuff. So there's a lot riding on it. By the time the show comes around, you're just physically depleted. But there are also, some emotional reasons as well. And I really can only speak personally, but I feel that what I tended to do was I attached the outcome, like my success or my feeling of being worthy, I attached that to the outcome of the show. If I sell all my paintings, then that means I'm good enough and I'm worthy of love or praise or whatever. And when I achieved that, I realized that I didn't get the thing that I had attached or associated with achieving the goal. It's like that old thing where it's like you're continually searching. Everybody wants to be happy. But I really feel like for the most part in life, we're looking in the wrong places. And for me, I'd attached that idea of happiness and fulfillment to the outcome that was attached to that show. So then you achieve this thing and then you end up feeling, well, now I still feel like heck. And then you get even further down in the hole because you're like, oh, well, what does it all mean? I had to completely let go of that. I've had to completely rewrite the script of who I am as a person and what success actually means to me. And now success to me is very much focused on purpose. And again, that's different for everybody, but I feel like I'm just now beginning to tap into what I feel my true purpose is. And it involves other people. It's being of service to others. And that's where the spiritual component comes into it for me, is that I feel that if I'm really on track, I'm of service. I am doing the thing I'm meant to be doing with what I've been given. And that's how I feel. I don't know. I won't go as far to say I know I'm doing that, but I feel like I'm honoring my God by doing the most I can with the gift he's been giving me. And that ultimately involves other people. So then I get wrapped up in the process of it, you see. So it goes from being attached to an outcome to being process focused and service oriented. And that's now where I feel I have the most fulfillment. And the funny thing is I haven't done a show in a long time. I mean, I was part of a group show in Perth in October, but I wasn't there because of the way the world is. It's all weird right now, and I get that. But yeah, it's a weird headspace. I'm still working it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes. I think it makes perfect sense. Even I think a lot of people can relate. Attaching your definition of like our definition of success to a particular outcome, and most of the time is like money related, right? It's like very practical kind of outcome that we think if we achieve that, then we'll be worthy, we'll be happy, and but then when you get there, you find out that outcome doesn't actually create that kind of emotional fulfillment.
Well, you get to a place where you achieve the thing, and you're like, is that it? Is that all there is? Is that what I've been fighting for this whole time? What was all that? And that ultimately makes you feel lower. And it's like, well, obviously that's not it. That's not the thing that you should have been chasing. The irony is that when you're not looking for it, it finds you. And that's the thing that I found. It's like
Wait a minute, what do you mean it finds you?
I'll give you an example. I was not looking for my wife. It just happened. But I had spent years and years and years looking for love and attachment and a commitment. And I was, I'd spent years looking for my dream girl. And then one day I just gave up on it. And within 3 weeks, she appeared in my life. She was just right there. There was no question in my mind when I saw Rachel for the first time. It's like, this is a woman I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And that happened to me in a moment. It was like she was there, and then it just hit me. I'm like, far out. But I wasn't looking. And I think that's the thing. It's like when you just focus on the thing you should be focusing on, the rest of the stuff can kind of take care of itself. I mean, yeah, there's some practical stuff as well. But what I'm saying, I guess, I don't want to be too ephemeral, but I think for the most part, we need to go back to the basics and just get really psyched up about painting, just creating art. I mean, if this is going out to creative professionals, how involved are you emotionally in the process of making the thing? Focus there, get really involved and really deep into the process of doing the thing. Love it. And that love is going to come through you. You're going to end up putting more time and energy into what you produce. The quality is going to be a lot better because you've put in more time and energy. You're more emotionally invested in it rather than focused on outcome. Social media. I mean, I've talked to people on my podcast about this all the time. Thomas Fluharty, Joe Paquette was another one, but social media is a huge thing where we're so focused on these KPIs or key performance indicators that we build up. Like I am worthy of love when I reach 10,000 followers or this or that. Again, it's all the external stuff. I guess what this really boils down to is that battle between the internal and the external. It's internal. And it took me a lot of years and a lot of hitting my head against the wall to go, you can't focus out there. It's about what's in here. And getting really involved in the process. I'm really all over the map, Lucy. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. Okay, so there are a couple of things I want to ask you about. Okay, so you say focus on the process. I think, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's like my personal experience, especially the last couple of months, right? The last 2 years is like I started to see the world a bit differently, and that kind of thing accelerated a bit the last couple of months, right? Basically, it was like everything basically I thought I knew about the whole world has like turned upside down, right? So don't want to get too much into it, probably.
I hear you.
Our views probably can be very different than other people's, but I think regardless of what specific things we're talking about, it is probably common experience for a lot of people when they go through some phases, probably not just once, where their experience and perspective or what they think is around their world, the environment can be turned upside down, and they just so I, like what I'm going is like, one question is, it's easy, I think, probably to just focus on the process when a kind of like a basic sense of safety and security. I just found I couldn't really just process or just becoming, fine-tuning my skills and just do this. What is the point of creating and producing?
I totally hear you. And I must admit, I got into a very dark place. I think the last couple of years have represented for a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people, a real paradigm shift, a shift in the way we view ourselves, a shift the way we view our world, power structures, all kinds of things. Now, again, I don't really want to get canceled or you canceled, but I can just say that, I personally, let me put it this way for anybody that wants to read between the lines. If I shared my opinion openly, then that would be, let's just say, unwise. And we'll leave it at that, because nowadays, like we don't have free speech. We don't have an ability to express an opinion. But I started looking at this and I started following money. And that completely, when I say following the money, I'm following the money in terms of the global thing that's going on. And that revealed a lot to me. And then I was like, oh, wow. So what this can do is it can lead to a place of panic and fear. And when you're in a state of fear, and quite often that's coupled with overwhelm, you shut down. Now, one thing that we know, from just the way our brain is wired, is that there are different parts, to the brain. We've got a very basic primal reptilian brain, right? As it's known, which is sort of closer to the base. And most of the higher functions are towards the front of the brain. It's an actual thing where when you are in a state of fear or panic or overwhelm, your blood flow is constricted to the base part of the brain. So now you're a very binary. It's fight or flight. We don't make good art when we're in that state of mind. No. And so regardless of what you think about what happened over the last couple of years or what's going on right now today, regardless of what you think about these issues, there's a lot of people that are feeling fearful right now. And I'll count myself among them. Of course, the world's a very uncertain place, but I also know that the Lord has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That's 2 Timothy 1:7. It's a really important verse for me because I find myself keep going back into that headspace. And so I want to get out of that and really kind of focus on, okay, no. What was I put here to do? So I think the point is that you're here. We're all here. What are we going to do with what we've been given? There's nothing I can do about that stuff outside. It's going to happen. But one thing I can do is I can focus on the people that are following me and give them as much as possible and make them feel good, make them feel inspired, make them feel motivated, lift them up. We can, as Thomas Fluharty puts it, we can exalt in the coolness of art together. This is what my Patreon community is all about, what that Facebook page is all about. And I really want to create a space where people can not worry about that stuff, focus on the stuff that we do want to focus on. The world is going to do what the world's going to do. And again, putting our focus and our attention where we're not going to have any change or be effective at all is just a recipe to just destroy ourselves, I think. And it's not to say we don't care. I mean, it's not to say I don't care. Of course I care. Of course I'm affected by this stuff just like everybody else. But I'm just choosing to put my focus someplace else. So when I do that, I feel that I'm nicer to be around. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I have more to give. And I think that's what I was put here to do, was to be of service, to love, and to give. And I think what the world does, and what a lot of people are also waking up to, and what the paradigm shift has been, I think that what the world does generally is it puts us into a state of fear and lack. Be afraid of this thing that's coming. And by the way, you're missing this in your life. I think that drives the vast majority of everything, human behavior, the way commerce is set up. If you
Yeah.
didn't feel you were lacking something, you wouldn't go and buy that stupid crap that you really didn't need anyway. You know, and look, I'll speak for myself. I buy a lot of dumb crap that I just didn't need because I'm like, oh, well, I'll feel worthy if I just have that. If I just get that, I'll feel much happier. You know, we all get in that trap from time to time. And I think that the system is perfectly set up to perpetuate that. And that drives the engine. What I'm saying, though, what I'm trying to do more and more with my particular creative path is just go, okay, I'm not going to put my focus there on the things I can't control. I'm not going to put my focus on anything external outside of myself, like an outcome or a sale or a this or that. I'm going to focus on my art and being the best teacher I can be. And just I had a buddy of mine and he used to tell me, Andrew, just be loving. This is when I was really messed up. He's just be loving. That's it. And you know, I'll second that. I think that's the key. You know,
Okay, just be loving. What does that mean? Just be loving. Like it sounds.
well,
like
think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it in this regards. Like we can approach a scenario with preconceived ideas, judgment, anger, apprehension, fear, or we can approach it with a state of love. You know what I mean? Everything. You know, ourselves in particular. You know, I'd spent a long time, you know, just beating myself up because I wasn't enough, because I didn't measure up to the outside external thing that I was trying to measure up to. You know, Lucy, I'm telling you right now, I got a lot of garbage that a lot of people won't see coming. They're like, because I hear it. Look, it is what it is. I see the emails. I read the comments. People have built me up into this character. They think they know who they're talking to or what they're getting. But I mean, I'm struggling with this stuff just as much as everybody else. You know, I'm a person too. I'm a human being too. But I think the thing that I need to learn to do, and I think what we could all do is just approach things, for lack of a better way of putting it, because this is now the major focus of my life, is to be more Christ-like. And I know this isn't a religious podcast or anything like that. And I don't consider myself religious. I'm a Christian. And I think there's a huge difference there. Christianity is a personal relationship that you have with Jesus. And to me, I focus on that personal relationship. And it's like, okay, pick up your cross and walk. There's the path. So that's something that's become a real focus for me. And what was Christ? Well, Christ was love in the flesh. You know, I mean, yeah, listen, he flipped some tables. Don't get me wrong. You know, he did flip some tables, but you know, he was loving. So yeah, I don't know what else I can add to that.
So there is so from what I hear, the purpose is very connected to your spirituality.
It is now, yeah.
And I think regardless of what the label of the any particular religion is, like Christian or Buddhist, everyone's, I think like spirituality is, you know, is where you find your purpose. Like, why are you put on, like why are you on this earth right here, right now? If there's really, if it's just like everything's random occurrence, I think that's where we have the existential crisis. Why am I even here? Well,
like... I'll give you a little rabbit hole to go down. And a lot of people, I'm probably going to upset a lot of people by saying this, but I think a lot of what we learn in the education system, in particular in public school, about the nature of our reality, I think it's completely bogus, because I think that the image that we're given of the nature of reality is to make you as the individual feel as insignificant as possible, so that you are even more in lack and you continue to perpetuate the same thing that's going on and on and on. But this is just my particular worldview, okay? And I get it that it's not for everybody. I mean, there's a lot of people with their own spiritual walk, but I keep going, okay, what does the Bible tell us? Well, it tells us that there is a God and that he loves us beyond measure, and he knows every hair on our head. So I don't even know every hair on my head. I know there's a fewer today than there was yesterday, but I don't even know that. So this means that this is somebody that knows me better than myself. So in one aspect, I've got the world telling me that I'm insignificant and this all happened by accident, and then my spirituality is telling me that I'm loved beyond measure. So I think that there's power in one and there's lack in the other. Now, does that mean I'm attaching to false hope? Well, no. Again, you probably don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I believe that there's enough evidence for absolutely irrefutable evidence in my mind for why that's a legitimate worldview. Otherwise, I wouldn't believe it. But yeah, that's so. Yeah, my purpose is very much attached to that now, but it wasn't. I mean, I'm very new to this. I'm very late to that game. Christians call it, being saved. I wasn't saved until late 2019, right before 2020 hit.
Okay.
So it's very recent.
So it looks like these last 2 years, even though on one level, right, would be difficult, because I think it's difficult whenever you have like a big change, like basically a big transformation. I think in the butterfly metaphor, for example, right, when they become a cocoon, basically the caterpillar has to completely melt into goo in order to become a butterfly. So can you imagine that process?
Wow.
That process, we can think of it as like a painful process. And the last couple of 2 years, even though painful, and waking up to see, what's going on, it's almost in another way turn into a blessing, because if you were not for all these kind of things that happen, so if not for something that would have pushed you.
I think that's fair. I think there was a lot that was happening in my life as well, personally, that was kind of gearing me up for a massive change and a massive paradigm shift. But I think often paradigm shifts are coupled with quite a sense of loss and a lot of pain, and then you start to rebuild. Otherwise, what ends up happening is that the house of your life just looks like, an absolute dog's breakfast, where one thing's built on another. This is kind of a process of raising it to the ground, completely wiping it down to the foundation and building again. And that's kind of what happened for me. Although I came to this realization for myself before I had any inkling about what was happening in the world. That's why the timing is really kind of weird for me. But with God, I don't think there are any accidents. So it's an interesting one. But I will say that the last couple of years has strengthened my faith rather than weaken it. If anything, it's absolutely strengthened it. And it's like, okay, yeah, no, I think this is the right way for me to be.
And I am really grateful for that, because your stuff, like I'm on your Patreon, right? In your Patreon community.
Yeah.
And when I watch your videos, especially the critique videos, like I just feel so uplifted. I feel that sense of warmth, like, you give critique to people, and I'll be honest with you, and probably if anyone from the Patreon community hear me, please don't get upset. Like sometimes when I see the students or the picture, and I say, this is clearly not that good. I'm just be honest, okay? Forgive me.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then, like that's just my first impression. Of course, you teach like what's working, what's not working, and what if, right? That's before I just go in. Like a lot of time I find that I don't sit down and just look at what's working, what's not working, and what if. But here you talk about it. Like I could, like, for example, if I see something and I just say, that's clearly not good. And then I would just can immediately say, okay, why this is not good, why this is not good, right? That's easier to do. I think probably this is like our naturally where the human mind will go to what's not working, like focus on the threats and the bad. But then when I watch your video, you always start with what is working. And even with something that I just feel like, right? And I say, oh my God, Andrew sees beauty in everything.
But we all do, Lucy, we all do. We absolutely all do. I hear what you're saying, but the thing is that, and a lot of people might think, well, you're putting it on. You're really clutching there to try and find something beautiful and something that's not particularly beautiful. And on that,
Andrew, that's not what I'm saying at all. Like, listen,
okay. Let me get you right.
When you start saying like, when I see something done, you say clearly not good. Like, and then I hear you say what is working.
Okay.
And you have said something, and you know what? From like people have to probably see it to really feel it, because it's not something if I'm pretending to just point out things that clearly can't see is good, and I'm just saying, oh, this is working, like in a pretentious way, just because I'm making out a video, people can tell. Okay. But when you are saying it, the reason I'm feeling like so uplifted and feel like such like a big sense of warmth coming out from the screen, it's because I can clearly feel like, gosh, like you really genuinely deeply see like what is working, like what is the beauty in something that at first glance, I look at it on a surface level without like just, it's clearly not a very good one, right? But you genuinely see what is working. Like that's what I feel so like get that the constructive feedback. Like I think like that's what a good teacher, like that's very important to a good teacher, right? You like look at your work. You're a master. Like you paint masterfully in like this every subject.
Thank you. Yeah, like, yeah, okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't
But
agree,
it's
but I
true.
appreciate that.
Well, Andrew, you know, if you
I'm a work in progress like everybody else, but yeah.
like everybody else. But then you are like way up there. You are amazing. And you're like skill-wise, right? And everything. As an artist, technically, you master every subject. You know, the big mountain landscape, the seas, the portraits. Like, is there anything you can't do? Hello,
you could fill libraries with the stuff I don't know and can't do. Like seriously.
Well, in terms of painting,
it's especially in terms of painting. There's some paintings that I see that just leave me breathless. I get focused and maybe sometimes overly focused in technique, that sometimes the poetry and the emotion is not present in some of the work. And I know when I'm on and I know when it's not working. I know, I can tell. But back to your point about, you know, in terms of trying to find the positive in people's work, you're right. I don't try to find it. I do see it, but I've had practice trying to see it, because what I'm talking to when I'm talking into the mic and I'm doing the recording, I record it right here at my desk. I apologize for the noise outside as well, Lucy, by the way. I've got a truck going past.
Can't hear the noise.
You can't hear it?
No.
Okay, that's good. A massive truck just went past. I hear it. Anyway, you know, I had to start talking to myself in a nicer way, because I think by and large, what we have the tendency to do when we're painting is we look at something and we're like, oh, this is crap. This isn't working. The composition's off. The colors are off. It's no good. It's just a very short gap to go from this painting's no good to I'm no good. And so many of us artists are in that headspace of this isn't working. This is crap. I'm not good. I'm not working. I'm crap. I tell you, I run into a lot of artists who are feeling this way. And what I try to do is, okay, look, let's not see it worse than it is. Let's not see it better than it is. How do we see it actually as it is and have something to grow? The truth is that nobody, not even the person doing it, has got an objective view on what has been created. Not even the creator has got an objective. And when I say creator, I mean creator of the artwork. Okay. Nobody has an objective view of what has been made. So we have to play a bit of a mental game. And it's almost like if you charted it like a graph and the objective truth is right there at level, we start below because we're like, it's not working. And then we're trying to get back up to that, but we end up getting further and further down in despair. What we tend to do, what I'm trying to do is plot that graph to do this above and below that line and get closer to it. So it's like, okay, what's working? Let's start off and really celebrate the things that are working. Because I tell you right now, every painting I've ever done, everyone I've ever done, it's been perfect. It's been absolutely perfect in terms of color, composition, technique. It's been absolutely perfect. It's been a home run in my head before I even start. The truth is, though, when I've done it and I'm looking at the final article, I'm going, oh, missed the mark again. That happens to me, by the way. That happens to me for every single painting. All right. But I don't get down about it anymore. Now I'm like super pumped about it. And I'll show you the mental game that I'm playing with myself, but I'm not playing a trick on myself. Like you have to genuinely occupy that space. So I started playing that with myself. So I'm talking to other people the way I talk to me when I'm looking at my work. So I'm like, okay, I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that. I'm not, oh, that's crap. That's crap. Miss that, miss that, miss that. Background's a bit clumsy, blah, blah, blah. Too much white there. It's got too opaque, whatever. And then start again and be like, whoa, 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 stop, hold up. What is working? We did a really nice job with that transition of yellow to blue without it going into green. Created a nice round form on that egg that you're painting for that still life for your beginner's course. That works. Maybe the background's a little clunky, but at least that works. And so now already I'm starting on a high, and then I can start to address what's not working, already feeling good about it. So I'm in a little bit of a safer position to be able to judge my own work. But also when I'm looking at somebody else's work, to get them to see, okay, there's some stuff here. It's not all bad. There's some stuff here that's clearly working. There's some stuff here that we need to address. Then the third question, and I love this. What if I did A, B, C, D, E, whatever? What if I took this into new territory? What if I explored some potential or some possibility that I wasn't even, thinking about before? What if? Sorry, I'm going bright red. It is sweltering up here today. It's a hot day here in New Zealand. I don't know if you're putting out the audio version or the video version, but people are going to be like, Andrew, why are you the color of a beetroot? I'm suffering for you here, Lucy. I'm suffering up in the office, and I won't even put the fan on because it'll be too noisy.
I envy you. I envy you because in Sydney here, we barely had any summer this year and last year. And it's been rain for 3 weeks now, and a lot of places are flooded.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, Sydney, this is flood. Don't get me go down that flood and why there's rain for 2 weeks, because it never happens in Sydney, Australia. Right? Our weather is not like that. Anyway, don't go down that rabbit
hole. I know that there is a rabbit hole there to go down, and I'd have to say I'm probably with you on your view about why this is happening. But but no, I appreciate what you're saying, and I that is difficult. I mean, I've lived all sorts of places. It is nice to have a summer finally, but because we didn't get one way down south at the bottom of the South Island of New Zealand. It was cold.
You just moved to New Zealand like last year, right? Or
no, I moved to New Zealand in 2017. So okay. I've been in New Zealand for a long while, but I used to live in New Zealand, in Wellington for a period of time that was between the age of 6 and 10 years old. So that was that I spent a little bit of my childhood in Wellington, before then at the age of 10 moving over to Perth in Western Australia.
Okay, so, before I ask you about your upbringing and how you become so good.
Shall I finish my point that I was making though about the what's working, what's not working, what if kind of thing? Okay, so essentially just to tie a little bow around that, and what people will see on the critique page. So again, or the critiques on Patreon is that's the mental game that I'm playing with myself, and I guess I'm getting relatively good at it, and I'm trying to teach other people because I'm trying to say, hey, look. Maybe we can enter this dialogue mentally, in our own studio, not beat ourselves up so much, but also grow and then help each other to grow. And, I most of what I see on that page, they're all great ideas. So if nothing else, let's celebrate the idea. You're painting a castle. Awesome. I love castles. Castles are great. Let's talk about how we could do it. So anyway,
what I was just about to say is like, Andrew, I think for a lot of people, if they look at your work, it's so easy to say what is working. Like, I understand, because you're the artist, you are already at that level. So when you look at your own work, of course, it doesn't match up to what you envisioned before you started. Like, if I look back to myself, I was an artist all my life. I kind of, as a patron on your page, I knew you told your teacher when you were at school that you wanted to become an artist since you were a kid, but that wasn't my path, right? I only started painting when I was pregnant, when I was, so pretty late in life. When I look at your work, and of course, Andrew, it's easy to see what's working. Everything is working, right? Honestly, for a lot of people, that's what they would say. But then when you then look at your own work, say, of course, a lot is not working, right? But then if I then again look back to the work that I did 5 years ago, when I started, or 8 years ago, and I could see that I have come a long way, right? And I would look back and say 8 years ago, I would love to be where I am now. in terms of
Mhm.
the art that I make. I wasn't like, that like I would probably say, oh, if I could only do that, like the past me. But then I think we constantly have this thing in our mind. I think like I used to just never see that how far I've come and always beat myself up. It's like, this is not working, like this is not good enough. And look at what Andrew is doing. Like, like there's like no way you can, when you compare with people that you think that's so good, there's no way you can measure up. Like, it's so easy to then feel despair and just not good enough again. But but I feel like I've started to have a bit of shift. The reason I can see what's not working in my work and what is not, it's because I have to upgrade this, like playing computer game. Like I leveled up, right? I leveled up.
You
That's
leveled
why
up. Yeah.
I leveled up, right? So rather keep leveling up. And so I think that has really helped me. And I think you've done a lot. Like when I watch your critique, now you talk about it, realize you've done a lot of this, like what's working, what's not working on your own work. That's probably why it makes it easier, like so natural for you to see what's working in other people's work too.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way as well. Like in the thing I love about those three questions, what's working, what's not working, and what if, is that the way you can actually apply that to everything, not just art, but everything, like life, like business, like relationships in particular. Listen, you want a secret to a healthy, long-lasting marriage? Ask those three questions. What's working here? What's not working here? What if? What's working here? Man, what's working is, we're getting some nice time where we get to walk the dogs as a family, whatever. What's not working? I don't take enough time to really show her how much I appreciate her, whatever. What if I did an extra special something, or surprise her with something, or a little letter or a flower or something, just little things throughout the day to let her know, really, even though I'm so busy all the time, she can at least know I'm still thinking about her. I don't know. You can apply this to everything, but just on that note, with applying it to my work, what you're doing with me, like externally, is you're starting off, rather than start off with what's not working and down in the pit, you're now up here on the top of the peak, and you're going, what's working? Everything's working. So you're not seen objectively either. But this is the thing. This is the thing about the truth is neutral. The truth just exists right there in the center, and we're trying to find it, but it's there. And it's difficult to hit. So sometimes we come above it. If you forgive the analogy, we come above it with being overly positive. We come below it being totally negative, but we're never quite hitting it. So with me, then you've probably got to focus on what's not working and start drilling that. And if you want some ideas about what's not working, go to the comments section on YouTube and people will tell you what's not working. I mean, that is
your paintings.
Oh yeah, of course. I hear about it all the time. I get comments all the time. People tell me exactly what they think, and that's fine. That's fine. I knew what I was getting to when I went online. It doesn't make it hurt any less. I mean, I'm still got feelings and stuff. I read, I'm like, ow, guy, thanks. But the thing is that it does. You can't put somebody else in it. This is what DeMartini was saying, and I got a lot from his books early on. You can't put somebody else on a pedestal without putting yourself in a pit. The truth is that there is no difference between you and me. There's absolutely none. And when we actually really own that and really see that, then it means that I'm no better or worse than anybody else. I'm fallible just like everybody else, and I'm growing just like everybody else. But there's something else. I was thinking about this as an idea, right? We tend to put artists from the past in particular on pedestals.
Yes.
And we look at them and we're like, oh, Da Vinci. There's some paintings by Da Vinci that drive me mental. And I'm just looking at them going, why'd you do that? It's Da Vinci. Who says that? No one says that. That's such an arrogant thing to say. But the thing is that we tend to put people on pedestals. So it almost becomes sacrilegious to knock them off that pedestal and say, it's not really my thing. The truth is, I've got a couple of Da Vinci books, but I ain't looking at Da Vinci for inspiration. I'm looking at John Singer Sargent. Yeah. I'm looking at Joaquin Sorolla. I'm looking at Albert Bierstadt. Like, I'm looking at these other people, that Anders Zorn, I like that kind of painting, but everybody goes, what's the greatest painting that's ever been painted? The Mona Lisa. Well, I don't think so. But I mean, I'm just giving you an example. So we miss the point when we put anybody up at a level like that. What we're trying to do, and what I'm particularly trying to do with my own art education and striving towards mastery. I'm a long way from it. I'm a long way from it. And I always want to be learning. But I think that we kind of miss it if we we almost bump our question or our thought process outside of what is true. You know, we can't see things better than they are. We can't see things worse than they are. Try to see them as they are. And I hope that makes sense. But
it does make sense.
Yeah.
And you say, like,
please.
when you put something on a pedestal, you almost automatically put yourself in a ditch, like John DeMartini says, right? I think it's really true. I think that's why, you know, we often see artists, especially because I mean, we're in the community, often see that coming up, like the comparison thing. When you see someone that's so good and then you compare, you feel shit.
Oh
man, language. That's because you're putting yourself in the pit.
I would go into like almost this depression, this deep depression, looking at people online going, why can't I have as many followers on Facebook as Joel Rhee has? You know, this painter from Queensland. He's amazing. He paints hyper realistic waves and tigers and icebergs and all sorts of stuff. And he's accepted by the art establishment, and he's selling epic works for epic prices. I'm like, why can't I have that many? I mean, I can paint. Why isn't anybody noticing me? And I'd get in a huge despair comparing myself to other people. It's a recipe for misery. Again, it's not true. It's not even real. Go back and focus on the process. And the process is what really, you know, got me out of that ditch that I was putting myself in, by comparing myself to other people. I tell you one thing, from somebody who has achieved, you know, broken 100,000 now on Instagram, 100,000 on Facebook, cracked 100,000 on YouTube. That's not where it's at. That where it's at is like that core group of people who you feel are part of your community. The numbers at a certain point feel meaningless, but I was chasing those numbers in the beginning. I wish somebody had told me how empty I'd feel once I got there, because again, it's not about the external thing. It's about continuing to show up and do the thing you love. Let the rest of that crap go. Let it take care of itself. And I'm a really big believer in that. But also, I don't want to be flippant and just say, okay, build it and they will come, because that's not necessarily true either. Yeah, we do need to use these tools that we have access to, and there are smart ways of using them, and there are smart ways of reaching more people. And man, I know that I'm one that needs to brush up on my skills. Like, I had my buddy Sam telling me, he said, you're doing TikTok all wrong. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, you need to be getting way more views than this. Let me help you, kind of thing. But even so, you know, I just showed up and I just didn't really stop. But the minute I got focused on the numbers was the minute that I lost touch with what I really needed to be focused on.
What with the numbers, right? I'm sure a lot of people will have this question in mind, even though we're talking about like just go back to the numbers, because it's very practical stuff. Doesn't getting that 100K on Instagram, YouTube, or whatever actually help with sales then? Like, that's the bottom line, right?
Does it help with sales? Well, sure, it can help with sales, but I'm not even focused on the sale even more. I'm focused on. I tell you what I'm focused on. I put a call out on my Patreon page to the beginners and people that were really struggling with some things. What would you like me to teach you?
I answered that question.
Yeah. And I got some great responses, you know, from you and from everybody. And I was just like, man, okay, there's some areas that I really need to focus on. And so that's where I'm just going to put my attention and energy. I know the beginner's course will sell. I know it's going to be excellent. But I know that is it going to be perfect? No, but I know that it's going to be the best I can do at that time. And that's all I can ask for. Anybody else can ask for. It'll be my very best for that time. And then I'll grow. For instance, I put out a portrait painting workshop. I'm super proud of that portrait painting. You know, it's a series of demos. Don't be thrown off by the workshop title, but, you know, it's a series of demos that are available online. And really proud of that product, but I'm already thinking about the next portrait workshop. I'm going to take that one off the market. I'm going to put a new one on because I can already see ways that it can be done better. And so again, my focus is really on the process. But is there a practical element to making some sales with more numbers? Well, of course. But again, it's not as many people as you think. It's actually, the number is surprisingly low. And I started with a mailing list of 70 people. That's all I started with. I gave a demonstration to Alfred Cove Art Society in Perth several years ago, maybe nearly a decade ago. And I handed around that room a sheet of paper, and I asked everybody to put their email on that sheet of paper so I could email them sometime with some tips, tricks, and techniques or whatever. And I got everybody nearly to put their name on that sheet of paper, and I just started emailing them. And then I got a few people to attend some workshops. I was already selling work. So I already came to the teaching thing as a reasonably successful, full-time artist. I've been doing it full-time, art or teaching art, since I was 21 years old. I've never had employment elsewhere. So, I had to work out a way to make it work, but I started with a relatively small amount, and it was enough that I could make it happen. So I'll give people like numbers. So I can give you an example of numbers of how it worked in the early days. I taught a physical workshop where I would teach, just to a room of people. I made the decision that I could not effectively teach in one room more than 10 people. I couldn't do it. So what I thought I'd do is I'd go, okay, look, what would I need to make for those 10 people in order for it to be viable for me, but good value for them? So I was like, well, I think $100 per person per day would be nice. And if I organized a block of workshops that was 4 weekends, at $100 per person per day, that means the block of workshops for a period of 4 weeks would be $400. Well, right there, for teaching 1 day a week, I was making $1,000 a week. And so that was an idea. And so how quickly did I fill up that course? Immediately. Within the moment I announced it, it was sold out.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh, this is cool. Then I did the very best job I could. I still remember those first lessons that I gave. I couldn't speak. I was not very good at teaching. It was my first one. I cringe at some of the stuff that I said in that workshop. And I'm so sorry to all of those people. Peter Zeller from Patreon, she knows all about it. But, I'm sure she's a very sweet person. But I'm sure she'd go, oh, no, it was fine. It was great. Because she came to several of my workshops. And there's a few from the Perth crowd that I'm sure are on the Patreon page. But Peter Zeller is one of my OGs, from back in the day. She's great. But I don't know. Like I suddenly twigged on something that if I just focused on giving the best I could in the moment, that the rest would take care of itself. And that has been true. When I've started focusing on those external things, again, like the numbers thing, like the money thing, and chasing after that, that's when it's up for me and I don't do my best work and I make really stupid decisions. It's about connecting. It's really about connecting with yourself and really genuinely trying to fulfill a need in somebody else.
Yeah, and see, you still have like Peter that you connected from such early on and still in your community. How amazing is that?
It's awesome.
I feel like, it's so true. Like I like for me, like just the first year of the pandemic thing, like I actually had like one really good month. Like for me, like a $9,000 sales month is like really good month. Like that, or like that was like my best month. Right? Probably like really look really low in some people's eyes, like, but that was like my best month.
Did you say, sorry, $9,000 in 1 month?
But it was like once in a blue moon. Okay. It was
that is amazing.
But
that's amazing.
That's like once in a blue moon. And also, I also had a good month in January. I had like almost 4,000, but that, but my sales is very inconsistent, right? So I feel like even when I had a really good month, for me it's a really good month. My thought, instead of yay, really happy, what I often feel like is like, I'm not gonna keep up with that number. And like, and I also, because like I think for people, like I am not depending on that art sales to pay rent and everything. When I focus on my like put my focus on chasing the numbers and getting the sales, like you say, like there's no fulfillment at the end of the day, because if the mindset is not there, even after I reach the sales, which exceeded my goal, like 9,000, I just want like 5,000 would be great, but then I got the 9,000, and then I'll still felt like crap because the external result does not create the feeling that you want, like the feeling of fulfillment and happiness. You know, people talk about it all the time. It's not the money that you want to have, you know, other purposes and things. I think I hear that all the time, understand it on a mental level. And I think really just very recently, this last couple of weeks, that I start to really feel it, not just know it intellectually, and start to really like feel it. So that's why like I reach out to you, because I feel like for artists especially, it's very easy to be like we're all quite isolated, and especially what's going on, not just artists, a lot of people are isolated, and when you're isolated, it's easy to then focus on the fear, and then you despair and all that kind of things. And I feel like then you kind of like, what is the purpose? And I feel like, the purpose really is like what you said before, all the things out there you can't control. Dr. Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, like what is your attitude in this point in time, in the circumstance that you are given, right? And you have, like you, Andrew, have focused on serving your community, right? That's what Peter has follow you all this time. And that's why even when I came to know about you later, I get this sense of warmth that has helped me. So I feel like connections and really helping people, serving people, like it's what we do. It's probably art can do to connect and share with people, you know, create, like what can you create? Do you create more despair, or do you create connection, community? And
there's a lot of threads there, and I fully appreciate what you're saying. I just want to kind of give an example, if I may, of how I really feel about this, because again, I think deep down we all feel that sense of what we know we want to really be doing. And going back to those workshop days, it struck me almost immediately, and then this was consistent, that the youngest person in the room was me, and I'm the one teaching it. So here I am in my 20s and then early 30s, teaching these workshops and oil painting, and there wasn't a hair of color inside unless it was dyed. And that's not to disrespect my audience, but these were older people that were of retirement age, that now they had time on their hands and a little bit of money from working their whole life. They now were giving themselves permission to do what they really wanted to do. And I know a lot of people find themselves in that situation, and I don't want to be, you know, flippant about this, and I don't find that necessarily amusing at all. What I started to do is I started to ask people around the room, just individually, so what would you do? Where are you from? What tell me about yourself, kind of thing. And you know, you're taking this class, you like to paint. Okay. You know, I started asking them about it. And I got the pretty much a consistent answer for the most part. I wanted to do this when I was younger. That's what they would tell me. I wanted to do this when I was a young person, but my parents wouldn't let me, because I would never amount to anything. And they were worried I would starve to death. So they said, no, Kevin, you're going to go into advertising. Joan, you're going to be a lawyer. You know, Barry, you're going to become a doctor. No, you're going to be a podiatrist, because your grandfather was a podiatrist, your father's a podiatrist. Now you're going to be this. So a lot of people are an engineer or this or that. It doesn't matter. But that for some reason, for a lot of people, if maybe a particular generation, it was a little bit more of this than other generations. But generally speaking, people shied away from it because the people that were caring for them, and again, I have no doubt in my mind that families generally want the best for their children. They don't want their kids to suffer. So when you hear somebody saying, I am going to be a fire twirler in the circus, that's really what I want to do, you'd be like, what circus? I don't know. I'll just wait out on the side of the road with my thumb out. And maybe one will come along and pick me up. That must be what we sound like when we're telling our parents what we want to do for the rest of our lives. They're like, you want to be an artist? What, are you crazy? So a lot of these people now, we're in a position where they're like, I want to do this. But then there's this kind of this juxtaposition between the freedom having time and money on their hands, but also the knowledge that the time is somewhat limited, because now they're here in their 70s and 80s, some people in their 60s. You know, I think that as long as there's breath in the body, you know, and you've got today, there's an opportunity for you to start doing what you really want to do right now. So I just wanted to throw that in the mix. It's never too late to start. It's never too late to start. I've got a lot of people on Patreon in their 80s that somebody just emailed me the other day, and they're like, I'm 82 and I'm loving this. This is cool. You know, I'm like, awesome, man. That's so cool. That's awesome. So you know, there's nothing wrong with being old. I hope to get older one day as well. But I think the thing that just struck me was like, you know, life is a fleeting thing. And, you know, doing what we love, not necessarily what we want, but what we love. I think that's really important. And now, you know, with the tools that we've been given now, I think we have access for the most part. Like, we've got opportunities now that we have at our fingertips, despite all the crap that's going on in the world. We've got some things that are happening now that are opportunities that didn't exist 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Long may it continue. I hope it does. You know, I do have some reservations about where everything's going, but I hope to continue to keep doing it as long as I can. And I think the online world gives us that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. We need to wrap this up in honor of your time, and we didn't have a chance to go into your background. Like, I know that you started really early, and you wrote about on your Patreon, then you told your teacher what you wanted to be when you were a kid, that was to be an artist. And he said, you're going to be starving, Andrew. And then look where you are now, right? So we're never too old to start, but also never too young, right?
Yeah.
Look what Talia's doing just from your podcast with her this morning.
Talia, and I also, I know a couple of kids that are out there. You know, George Lennon is a guy in the UK, young artist, up and coming. He's going to be huge. Cody Oldham is blowing up right now. He's going to be massive. There are just so many people out there doing it at a young age, you know, in their teens. You know, I think Cody is about to turn 18. So it's just epic what's happening, you know, with some people. So yeah, you're never too old and you're never too young. But I again, like I maybe I did have a bit of a head start, and I did have a little bit of an advantage from that point of view, that my father is an artist. He still sculpts, and my mother was an artist. Sadly, she passed away about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. So it's still quite recent, but you know, she was a talented painter in her time. But, you know, looking back at stories, you know, from my parents', you know, day, she started off full of promise and full of hope, but unfortunately, you know, she gave up on her dream. And so I had that benefit of looking at things from afar, you know, happening in my family, and examples of what was working, what wasn't working, and then what do I get to now do with my life? And that's not to disrespect my mother at all. I love her so much, and I, you know, I pray for her, you know, but it was very interesting having that example. My mother and I were terribly close. She left when I was 2, just to kind of put it in context there. So I didn't grow up a whole lot with her. But I grew up with stories, and I grew up around some of her artwork, which was quite interesting. And I have a few of her drawings, just beautiful drawings. And I still have her original folio from her 20s here in the drawer. I've got her original portfolio, which is really cool. So yeah, it's a journey, man. And I think if there's one thing that I could leave people with, if there's one takeaway from this, it's that, you know, art is very much a journey. Don't get in the habit of comparing yourself to anybody else. Focus on the things that you want to focus on, on those internal things, on the things that you truly love and the things that truly make you happy, and let all the outside stuff take care of itself. We produce really bad work when we're focused outside of what we should be focused on. So we really need to go inside for that stuff. And yeah, if anybody listening to this wants to reach out to me, I'm sure you'll tell them where they can find me.
Yeah.
But Patreon's a great place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell your website, and they can search Andrew
Okay.
Tishler
Well,
on Patreon.
so I've got a website. That's the best place to find me first and foremost, andrewtishler.com. I'm on Instagram, Andrew_Tishler_artist. I'm also on Facebook. Just search my name. I'm all over YouTube. Search my name there. I've got a channel there. It's probably my biggest thing is YouTube. But Patreon is where I'm really focused on the community aspect. And I've got a wonderful group of people there. And there's a private Facebook page associated with Patreon. So when people sign up, then they can find out how to find the Facebook page and join us on that.
Your Facebook group is like probably one of the very few, like probably one of two that I frequent, because it's amazing. It's a really good
It's awesome, isn't it? Yeah, it's a great community.
Awesome.
It's beautiful people on there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and have a great life and make great art.